Hello, my name is Ramon. Welcome to the channel. What I've got going here, I am working on a table for our house, dining room table, and it's going to be in the shape of this Roylo triangle. So it's like a soft-sided triangle, right? Now, this is not the tabletop. This is going to make up the skirt, and it's two pieces, of course. So, well, not of course. So it's two-part, top and bottom, and it's going to have these components in between the top and the bottom, and within that are going to be these drawers that pivot open, right? So everything has to be really accurate for pivoting drawers to work in the first place. So there's a lot of moving parts happening, a lot of different components that have to integrate, and everything has to be extremely accurate, right? So what I'm going to do is make a torsion box. The torsion box will serve two purposes. A, it'll help me create, build, and assemble all of this. And two, it'll be the platform under the vacuum bag when I make the top tabletop. Make sense? So let's get cracking.
Now I decided to use particle board, and I went with 3/4 thick, so about 19 millimeter. And yeah, it's heavy, and particle board, I call it practical board because it is practical. It has a bad name, but it's the ideal material for a lot of situations. And for this torsion box, since it took about 3 sheets, it's inexpensive, but particle board shines is that it's stable and it's flat. So that's what I decided to use. I'll make the ribs out of it, and of course the top and bottom. And it's quite large. This torsion box is going to be about 62 by 62, 65 by 65, something like that. So yeah, I think somewhere in this video or some video somewhere I said that this is 65 square, but it's not. I went 62 square, right? And so here's an easy way to figure out how much more I need beyond this 4x8 sheet. So I just put my tape on 62 and look on this side, 14 and an eighth, whatever that was, and no math necessary. And if you watch my videos, you're probably going to hear me say this a lot, but man, I love this tiger fence. Accuracy is the main thing, but it's also, it makes your work quick, and of course it's just fun to use. I actually wish I had a bigger slider, well, bigger shop, but this K3, it has about a 78-inch rip capacity with the fence, so occasionally I'll take it off. Here you can see I'm putting it back on, but I was easily able to rip those 8-footers, so it's not really an issue.
All right, that didn't take too long. Got most of my parts cut. I think I have enough of the ribs. And so, I mean, if I have to cut more and I need that exact height, and I ended up moving this fence with the tiger fence, it's awesome because I can bring it right back to that same measurement. Not that this has to be that critical, but you know, accuracy, it all adds up. So this torsion box is going to be 62 inches by 62 inches, and I'm making it about 4.5 thick, tall. Now, for those of you that don't know about a torsion box, so a torsion box, one of the main characteristics is that it is lightweight and strong, or two of the characteristics, lightweight and strong. Mine is not going to be lightweight because I need to employ another factor. I need it to be very flat. So when you think of a torsion box, you could think of an airplane wing, right? Or a hollow core door. That's the torsion box principle. So essentially you have this network of, or framework I should say, and then with a skin on each side that's all glued, and it becomes very rigid. And so however you make that, it will take that shape. So if you're building it on sawhorses, you could build a twisted torsion box. My goal is to make a dead flat torsion box that is not only strong, but very flat. It is going to be heavy. I don't know what I'm going to do with it when I'm done, but it'll serve the purpose for what I need exceptionally well. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work, but the material was not that much. And if I had a big enough shop, I could actually use it as a table somewhere, but I don't. So I'll probably end up taking it apart, or at least trying to salvage the sheets. I don't know how it'll come apart. You're gonna laugh when you see how I'm going to assemble this. I'm not gonna use screws. I'm gonna use a big old staple gun and a ton of glue because I want this thing strong, rigid, flat, all that.
Gotta love a slider for quick, accurate, repetitive crosscuts. Yeah. And here we go. Nothing too tricky here. Just kind of a framework, almost like framing, right? And this is a gun I'm using. It's a 1/2 inch crown, 2-inch long staple. Works amazingly well.
So the first two cross pieces that I'm putting in, those will correspond with the width of the sheet, right? And I had to switch to trim gun, just using a 2-inch nail. All right, so this is my progress so far, and I discovered, well, a pleasant surprise. So my plan was to make a video showing how to build a torsion box, assuming that you didn't have a place to build one, right? And so I started putting the ribs together, or the studs together, whatever you want to call those. And then I was going to show my process for creating a flat area to put the skins on that is dead flat. That way, that ensures that the final product, the torsion box, will be dead flat. And then I started checking with winding sticks, and this probably won't show up very good on camera, but this part of the table is in fact really flat. I checked it both directions, and so I'm gonna go ahead and put the skins on once I get all the ribs in right here on this outfeed table. Something I found interesting is that I like putting my white winding stick in the front and the black one in the back, and then typically you'll have a light or a white background, a wall on behind the black one, and so that creates the contrast you need when you get down here to sight that tiny little sliver of black showing. Kind of cluttered in this perspective, but when I was going the other way, it showed up a lot better. Little details, yeah, it all adds up.
Of course, with this angled nail gun, it made it easy to get in there and nail these support pieces.
Well, there it is thus far, and I could feel it getting heavier and heavier with every piece that I added. It's going to be pretty substantial, I think, in weight. And I was actually surprised that it's not as flexible as I thought it would be at this stage without the skins on it. Of course, a torsion box gains all of its strength and rigidity with the skins. Not that we can really call these skins because they're going to be 3/4 inch thick particle board, but I think it's going to be flat, which is my ultimate goal. So yeah, progress.
So more than likely, with all the glue that I'm adding, I won't be able to take this apart to salvage any of it, which is kind of a shame. I mean, the particle board is not that expensive, but that's really not the point. I hate throwing stuff like that in the landfill when this would be an absolute usable table in a big workshop. But anyway, it is what it is. And of course, this is where you wish you had, another set of hands. But I was able to get that big piece in place without smearing too much of the glue by just kind of rocking that edge. And I had to switch to my nail gun for attaching this instead of my 2-inch staple gun. It quit working. I'm gonna have to take it apart. Might need O-rings or something. Anyway, I've always found it interesting to note that nail guns or staple guns use a collated nail, which means that they're held together with glue, and as that nail penetrates the wood, the friction liquefies the glue, allowing that nail or staple to enter easier, and then it cools off, the glue hardens, and that nail is set. Just try pulling one if you don't believe me, right? I was actually surprised how flat it was. And check out this 3-foot straight edge I recently got. I have a 2-footer, which is pretty handy, but sometimes you need a bit longer one. And, checking joiners, table saws, torsion boxes, right? And this thing is awesome. A little bit of a hump right there, no big shake. We'll get that figured out. And this is where this dude lives. Quality, I love it.
So right along the seam, it has a little bit of a high spot, and that's typical. I actually expected that because, you know, moisture will absorb in the edges on particle board first before it absorbs into the faces and swell those edges slightly. So that can be taken care of easily. I'll just hit that with a belt sander, but it is pretty dang flat. Super happy with that.
So I simply kept sanding the high spots till I was happy. It didn't take much. I believe I was using a 50 grit, so yeah, it sands quickly.
All right. Whew, that was rough. So I got this up on sawhorses by myself. Had to use some forms and a couple of sustainers. So yeah, I don't recommend doing that. Now, this is beautiful and, you know, stable, flat. And now I can continue to build this pedestal for this Roylo triangle table, and I can stay accurate with the rest of the build. Woo! That is awesome.
All right, just to put things into context, I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the innards of this table. You can see these curved pivoting drawers, right? I've labeled them A, B, and C just so I can keep track of all the parts. It's crazy how critical accuracy is when you're making curved drawers that pivot. Everything has to be just right. So from the 3 sections A, B, and C, I'm able to cut all 3 pieces, then add wood on the edges, and then I can veneer over the face. And as that middle section pivots, the ends that show are solid wood.
All right, here's the progress thus far. Drawer boxes are made and starting to fit them into the bearing blocks. And then I can start to fit the exterior skirt that you know, goes between the drawer boxes. Let me set this camera down. Okay, so you can see this other pivot block here, and there's 2 of these, right, top and bottom, and this will all get filled in with bracing, essentially making a torsion box. And then I'll show you this left side in action. Pivots like that. Of course, the right side has the corresponding bevels as well. So that's the plan. Pivot point with a stop to limit the travel. Yeah. So overall, everything seems to be working.
So a dead flat surface or a torsion box is absolutely necessary for a build like this. Then of course for the tabletop as well, we need that to be dead flat. And here we're trying to gain about 20 bars of mercury. Man, I love this stuff.
That was a successful glue up. Super happy with that. Everything looks nice and tight, flat, no bubbles. Yeah, man, I can finally relax. Awesome. So this vinyl bag that I ordered custom size worked out well. My other bag over there is polyurethane. This I probably won't use that often, so I just got the little less expensive vinyl and worked well.
Yeah, man. Dead flat is where it's at.
Probably doesn't look like much, there's so many clamps, but drawer front, apron, leg. Oh man. I used 30-minute epoxy. This stuff is awesome. So it'll set up rather quickly, about the same speed as the glue, you know, the wood glue, because I used epoxy in some areas and then wood glue. For instance, this support, it got glued down with wood glue. So I'll just let it sit overnight, and torsion box makes a huge difference. Everything's nice and flat. And tomorrow I can work on getting that top piece installed. Should slip right in place, and yeah, getting closer. Exciting, man.
All right, great morning. Yesterday was a successful day. Got all the leg apron assemblies glued in place, and what I did is I started with one corner
off of the torsion box, and I got this, these aprons and the leg all assembled, glued, right? And then I drilled a hole all the way through the torsion box and slipped this leg through, and that way I had it, access to do those two at the same time. Everything looks pretty good. I'm going to pull the clamps off here in a bit and check everything out. Of course, the real test is where the apron meets the drawer front here on the open side. And here on the other end, yeah, this looks really good. That just literally disappears. I can do a little fine tuning. So what I'll do is take low raking light, shine it across here when this is closed. I can see a little bit of a shadow here at the top. I don't know if that shows up, but here at the top, I can just take a little bit off of this apron, reduce that shadow until that's just perfectly flush. Overall, looks like a great success. And then now I can do a few more little things I have to do. I need to add a stop and a way to latch these drawers when they're all closed so they don't accidentally fall open if you're moving the table or whatever, and some other things. And then I can put this top plate on top. So yeah, very pleased with that glue up so far.
Since this video is all about the torsion box and not the table build, well, you're just going to have to come back to see the finished piece. And I got to tell you, it is spectacular. Anyway, thanks a ton for watching. I absolutely appreciate it. Remember to click, like, subscribe, learn.